Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is the handover tutorial on the Vantage Sol. Starting on the driver's side of the motorhome first, the first point you get to is your LPG filling point. So as this has a 25 litre underslung tank, to fill this you would go to the local petrol station that sells LPG, remove the cover, there's a fitment there that fits the pump hose, and you're able to fill with LPG until it stops, and then this is full. So a system like this will take about £25 to fill. When hooking the van up, depending on if you're hooking it up at home or on site, you do it the same way. You always want to ensure that you hook the van up first and then make the cable live, and do it in reverse order when unhooking, so that you're never walking around with a live lead. Next we have your water filler, so that opens with the main ignition habitation key, which is this one here. So you lock it after use so nobody can tamper with your water. Carry yourself a hose pipe with some hose pipe fittings, as it's mainly just a brass tap provided by the site. Flat end of the hose into the van and fill it until it overflows, or you can look on your control panel and see how much water is on board at any one time. This is your chemical toilet, so your cassette, so push both buttons in on the door, which releases the door, and there you have your cassette. To gain the cassette out of the van, lift the orange, or should I say green handle on this one. This slides out. You've got a handle so you can drag it to the waste disposal point if it's a bit heavy for you, and then to empty, remove the green cap, pop that to one side. As you start to pour it down the disposal point, you press the green button in to allow a bit of air in and stop it glugging. Tip the contents out. Once you've done that, a bit of water in here, cap back on, shake it, give it a rinse, and then go in with a cap full of chemical. This is 120 ml, it can either be the green liquid or the blue, depending on what the site prefers you to use for their septic tanks for disposal. And then you would just pop one cap of chemical into here, bang into the van, and it's good to go. This is your flue for your boiler system, so it allows the fumes out when operating on gas. Obviously it does work on electric as well, but this is more for the fumes on gas. Fresh and wastewater dump, so if you've taken on a source of contaminated water with the fresh, you would open it up and allow the water out. Once you're finished on your site, drive over the waste disposal point and release your wastewater. And in the winter you want to ensure that both of them are drained down so that no water can sit in any tanks and freeze and cause any damage to the motorhome. So make sure these are both left open. Coming around to the back of the van, you've got your high level brake light with your inbuilt reversing camera. And you've also got this bike rack that's been fitted by the last owner of the vehicle. What you need is, you need a 14mm socket here, which goes on. You loosen this off, and then this allows this to fold down, but it won't fold down unless this is unloosened. So get yourself a 14mm spanner or socket, loosen that off, this will fold down, and then you've got two rails where your bikes can be tied to, and two bars that hold the crossbars of the bikes to allow the bike to be held up. But you still have the function of folding it away from the van once the bikes are on to gain access to the back doors. And that just goes in with a locking pin, which goes in just in here. So it just goes in here. Make sure you put your split pin on the bottom to ensure that it doesn't swing open when travelling. And then you do have the external gas point, so you'll need a quick release connection, which we've got here, which clips into here. Two Jubilee clips and some gas hose to connect it all together. One end to the Cadillac, one end to here. Turn the tap on, it'll use the bottle on board the van, or should I say the gas tank on this van, instead of carrying a separate bottle. You've got your awning light, your awning, which we can show you on collection, as we're a bit restricted for height, for space here, with it being in a new handover base. Electric folding step, which will automatically pull back in when you start the engine. The engine does need to be off to then use the switch to retract it. And you've got your bonnet release, which is on the side of the dashboard here once you open the door. Before we go any further, this is where you fill the vehicle with diesel, which opens with the main ignition key, which is at the passenger door. So you don't need to have the door open to open the filler flap. Pull the filler flap back, use the key, and you'll be able to lock this after use so nobody can steal your diesel. Now inside the motorhome, to operate your 12 volt control panel, you've got your master switch here, which turns on the 12 volt power from the leisure battery and powers up all 12 volt appliances. If you're hooked up, you will get mains 230 volt. If you're not, you'll just get 12 volt off your leisure battery. Then you've got your pump, which needs to be turned on once you know you've got sufficient water in your freshwater tanks, and this will send water to the taps, toilet and shower. To check the freshwater level, you press here. This will illuminate once the waste is full. And then you've got two switches. So you've got your on and light switch, which is the switch on the outside of the van. Well, should I say the light on the outside of the van, the switch is here. And this is your lights that are in the front cab here. So in the wardrobe, you've got your battery charger. So there's a switch on the top, so make sure this is turned on. And to be fair, I would just leave this turned on all the time. That just means when you are hooked up, you will get mains 230 volt and it will charge your leisure battery and put some charge in. Here you've got all your trips. So if you've tripped your vehicle, try here before you try your main sight. And if you think you're not receiving power, just try tripping the van out first. If the van trips, you've got power. If it doesn't trip, then unfortunately you're not receiving power. So you can go and look for where you are hooked up to. You've got 12 volt fuses there, so do carry a pack of fuses with you just in case the fuse does replenish, and it's as simple as taking the cover off, pulling one of the fuses out and then looking at the center of the fuse there. You can see that that's intact. If it was blown, you would just need to replenish the fuse with the right amperage and pop it back in. And then you do have a switch on the bottom as well, which is your select battery switch. So this is where the charge that you hooked up to goes. So whether you want it to go to the leisure battery, which is where you'll want it to go when using the van, because the leisure battery is your auxiliary battery. But when you've got the van parked on the driveway in the winter, you might want to charge your vehicle battery, and you can do that by just switching it over to the top battery. That will put a bit of charge in the starter battery. And then you can turn it back to the leisure battery, because in the winter you want to ensure that both batteries get sufficient charge so that they don't go flat, because if they do go flat in the left, unfortunately you will be looking at replenishing and changing your batteries. Fuse on the back here is for your fridge, so that switch does need to be turned on to allow the 12 volt compressor fridge to work. And then you do have your Voltronics solar regulator, so that's just saying it's charging there. Obviously when the vehicle is hooked up, the hookup gets charged from 230 volt, which is far more than a solar panel could provide, so it does go to sleep when you are hooked up. It's only for when the vehicle is not hooked up, the solar panel will put charge in your leisure battery. Underneath we've got your large compressor fridge, so you do have a temperature gauge here, so you can adjust the temperature on the dial to suit. So when pre-chilling you may have it on 7. Once you put your shopping in, you may turn it down, as it does get rather cold on a compressor fridge, with your freezer box there as well. And then when you're not using it, you want to ensure that the door's left open to avoid trapping the air and causing smells. Located next to the sliding door when you come into the vehicle, you do have your main switches for your ceiling lights, but you've also got your Truma gas shut-off valve. So because this has got a 25 litre underslung gas tank, to turn your gas off when travelling, you've got an on-off button here. So you'll hear it, clicks underneath the van, you can turn it off, which isolates the gas to the tank underneath the chassis. And when you want to use it for your heating or your cooking facilities, you want to turn it on. You've also got your step switch, which will automatically retract when you start the engine. Engine has to be switched off to take the step back out, but if you forget, it'll automatically pull itself in as soon as you start up. In the kitchen you've got 3 gas burners. So that operates all 3, like so. Wait until they go cool enough until you put the lid down. As this lid is glass, you could shatter the glass with the heat. And underneath you put your grill. Keep it held in just to make the thermocouple get warm before releasing, and it'll stay lit like so. And then underneath you do have your oven. This is just showing that your water pump is working as you're getting a pressurised flow of water through, and the water is getting warm there, so your hot water system is heating the water up correctly. This is the location of your Truma digital control panel, which does your heating and hot water. So the next clip to follow will be a demonstration on how this control panel works. And then underneath you do have your bathroom light switch, which is this switch here. To operate your Truma digital control panel, this here is your on-off button, which you would do a long press on and it'll turn itself completely off, and then press and it'll turn itself on. To enter the menu, as this is on, but you want to get into the menu, you need to press enter. And here you do have a motorhome with a thermometer flashing. This is your interior temperature of the vehicle. So click on here. Off if you are away in the summer and you didn't want any heating, or you can turn it all the way up to 30 degrees, which sets the thermostat. To save the temperature set, press enter and then move along. And this is your water setting. So if you've got water in the boiler, water in the freshwater tanks, you can put your hot water system on. So you've got Eco, which is 40 degrees of heating the 10 litres of water. Hot, which is 60 degrees of heating the 10 litres of water. Or Boost, which is a half an hour setting, which turns off the heating and prioritises the water. So for this, we'll just say hot, as you want the heating and hot water to run together, whereas on Boost it turns the heating off and prioritises the water. Next, you've got your energy source. So you'd use gas if you were wild camping and didn't have any electric on board the vehicle. Mixture 1, which is 750 watts of electric and gas. Mixture 2, which is 1850 watts of electric and gas. You'd use that if you're in the winter, and this will boost the temperature of the vehicle quicker than using just electric for the first 20 minutes or so. EL1, which is 750 watts of electric, and EL2, which is 1850 watts of electric. Use EL2 on most sites throughout the UK. On smaller CL sites and airs, you may have to turn it down to EL1. And then at the end, you've got your fan, so you can have that on Eco or High, and that is just a 12 volt fan setting. Eco uses a lot less of the leisure battery. High uses the full fan speed, so you can hear it a little bit more, so you might want to turn it down to Eco when sleeping. Time here, you can so you can put a timer on for the heating to come on and off. Time on the main display panel, and then in the settings, if you scroll all the way down to reset, if you ever get a warn triangle that won't disappear, press reset. It'll say preset, press enter again, and then it'll completely turn the panel off, and you'll have to go in and set the temperature, the water, the energy source and the fan speed again. Anything above the line, so you've got your hot water, your heating on there with a gas flame, hot water's on, you're on 2 kilowatts of electric, as you've got 2 electric symbols lit up, and your fan is on Eco, so it tells you without even going in that your heating system is on. Underneath the bench sheet behind the washroom, you've got the location of your Truma boiler. So your Truma boiler heats 10 litres of water in there at any one time, as well as provide blown air heating to the vehicle. You've got, just before we go any further with the boiler, connected to the boiler at the back is a 10 amp fuse. So it's a 10 amp fuse spur. You can turn this off if you're standing the vehicle up for any length of time and you don't want the heating on. But make sure you haven't caught this and you're wondering why the heating wouldn't work, because what's happening is the electric isn't getting the feed because that fuse spur is turned off to the boiler. So that needs to be on. So just, if you've got any problems, just make sure you haven't knocked that, check there first. On here, which is your little yellow tap, this is your drain down toggle. So your drain down toggle needs to be stood up on end and not lying down like it is now when you're draining the van down in the winter. So when we're experiencing frost from any time from the back end of October to March, you want to drain the vehicle down. So when there's going to be a hard frost, the water must be left out of the vehicle. So that's fresh water, wastewater, boiler. Leave all the taps open within the van, including removing the shower head from the hose and laying the shower hose in the shower tray to stop any water collecting in there and causing any damage. When you come to reuse the van, you want to ensure that the boiler drains shut. Otherwise, you'll turn the pump on, and what will happen is you'll get the water will just flow back out of the van, and that's because you've left the circuit open. So you would shut this down like it is now, as the open position is up on here. Shut it down like so. Fill the van with fresh water from the outside. Come in, put the pump on the control panel, and open the tap. You'll get a pressurised flow on the cold side straight away. When you go to the hot side, it'll cough and splutter and make all sorts of noises until you get a pressurised flow. And this could take up to 3 to 5 minutes for your first tap, and then do them all to pressurise the flow. It just allows the air out and gets the water back through the system. You've also got your fresh water, your water pump and your filter. So when winterising, again, you want to remove. So once you've drained it down, turn the pump on for 10 seconds to blast any water in here out. Once you've done that, get a tea towel and remove this cover, just so that if any water's in there, it doesn't freeze and split that cover and cause any damage. Removing the cover will avoid it from being split with any water in there caused by frost damage. Make sure you do drain all your system down, because it isn't covered by the warranty. It's your responsibility as the owner to protect the van against frost damage. Located in the top corner next to the water pump is 2 gas valves, one for your cooker and hob and one for the hot water boiler system. Any problems with gas, you can isolate each individual appliance here. These are mainly for when the vehicle is annually habitation serviced, but you do have your main shut-off valve for your gas tank located next to the door. So you can shut that off, and that will isolate all gas to the tank. So to make the bed at the back, take the turnbuckles off the legs, pull the extension parts out into here, and then all you need to do is put your backrest into the centre. So I'll put the backrest into the centre and I'll show you the bed made. And there you have it. So 2 backrests from either side in the centre, and that's created your large double bed. You can remove the back bits as well, and you'll get a little bit more width on that bed, but that is a big bed in the back of the Vantage Sol. So now in the washroom, to operate the toilet, you've got a blue button here, which is your freshwater flush. So that comes from the freshwater tank, which you fill with a hose pipe. So what you want to do is you always want to get into a habit of just pressing it and putting a little bit of water in first before you use it, which helps lubricate the seal between the cassette and the blade. This is the blade handle. You now want to open this up before you use the toilet. So ensure that's always open before you use the toilet. Now everything will go into the cassette because the hatch is open, which is known as the blade. Once you finish, give it a good flush. If you've got any pink liquid, because there's no separate header tank on this motorhome, get an empty spray bottle, dilute so much pink with so much water, spray the bowl, flush, and then close the blade. Once it illuminates to the top one here that the cassette is full, and then you'll be able to pull it out the side of the van, but the blade must be closed, so get into a habit of closing it after use. The cassette will indicate it's full. You'll be able to pull it out the side of the van, tip it out, give it a rinse out, and replenish with chemical. You've got a toiletry cabinet, toilet roll holder. Your shower head is also your sink tap, so you get the best of both. So when winterizing, just pull this out and disconnect here, and lie it out so any water in this pipe can escape and go straight down into the sink or the shower tray, which the waste would be open. Further than that, you do have your shower setting or your sink setting, and that is your hot water there, and that is rather warm. And do just be careful with what you clean all your plastics out with in here. Don't use any bleach because you'll discolour the plastic, and use a microfiber and some Dettol spray or some washing up liquid is good enough to clean in here out of. Otherwise a sharp scourer will damage the finish. And just located next to your ignition where you put your key in, you've got your gas level gauge. So the engine needs to be running, and this will show you how much gas is inside your 25 litre gas tank at any one time.